The quantum dust clouds of the Carina Nebula masked everything within their swirling depths. It was here, cradled in the cosmic storm, that humanity's last hope waited. The HMS Aegis, Earth's first and only phase-shift dreadnought, maintained its silent vigil. Its dark hull absorbed what little light penetrated the nebula's veil, making it virtually invisible to both conventional sensors and the naked eye. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the ever-shifting colors outside. After 15 months of waiting, the quantum arrays had finally detected what they'd been watching for. The Dominion's 7th Fleet was on the move. Their target, New Eden, humanity's last surviving colony world besides Earth itself. Commander, the ship's AI, designated ARI, spoke with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. The latest quantum echoes confirm a force of 317 capital ships. They're moving exactly as intelligence predicted. Sarah nodded, her fingers brushing against the worn metal pendant at her neck, a piece of debris from her hometown of Singapore, destroyed in the Dominion's first strike against Earth. How many civilian ships have evacuated New Eden? 87% of the colonial fleet has jumped to safety. The remaining 13% should clear the system within the next 48 hours. The plan had been in motion for 3 years. While the Dominion believed they were gradually crushing humanity's resistance, they didn't realize they were being led into an elaborate trap. Every retreat, every apparent defeat had been carefully orchestrated to bring their main fleet to this exact location. Sarah made her way to the bridge, passing through corridors that would have seemed impossibly spacious on any other warship. But the Aegis was different. Nearly 40% of its internal volume was dedicated to its revolutionary phase-shift drive and the quantum arrays that powered it. The standard crew of 2,000 had been reduced to just 300 specially trained operators. Captain David Okafor looked up as she entered the bridge. His dark features were illuminated by the soft blue glow of the tactical displays. "Commander Chen, our guests are about to arrive. Would you care to do the honors?" Sarah took her station, initializing the quantum targeting systems. The Aegis had never been tested in actual combat. Every simulation suggested their weapon systems would work, but theory and reality didn't always align. Yet they had no choice. The Dominion's technological superiority in conventional warfare had proven overwhelming. "ARIA, begin power-up sequence for the phase-shift drive," Sarah commanded. Throughout the massive ship, systems that had been dormant for months hummed to life. The quantum arrays began their complex dance, manipulating forces that the Dominion scientists had dismissed as theoretical. "Commander," ARIA's voice held a note of concern. "I'm detecting unusual fluctuations in the quantum field. The nebula's interference is stronger than our models predicted." Sarah studied the readings. The Aegis didn't just bend space like conventional faster-than-light drives. It shifted partially out of phase with normal spacetime, allowing it to exist simultaneously in multiple quantum states. The technology was incredibly powerful, but also dangerous. A miscalculation could tear the ship apart. Compensating for field variations, she responded, her fingers dancing across the controls. "ARIA, run a Level 2 diagnostic on the containment systems." Captain Okafor moved to stand beside her. "The Dominion thinks they've got us cornered. 3 years of calculated defeats, letting them push us back sector by sector, all to make them believe their victory is inevitable." "Pride comes before a fall," Sarah murmured, quoting her grandmother's favorite saying. "The Dominion's arrogance is their weakness. They're so convinced of their superiority that they never questioned why we didn't use our more advanced technologies in previous battles." The tactical display updated, showing the Dominion fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel. Their formation was perfect, optimized for overwhelming force against conventional opposition. They had no way of knowing that the Aegis was about to rewrite the rules of engagement. "All stations report ready," ARIA announced. "Phase shift drive is nominal. Quantum arrays are aligned. Weapon systems are charged and targeting solutions are plotted." Sarah took a deep breath. feeling the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. The Aegis wasn't just a warship, it was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. When faced with a technologically superior enemy, they hadn't tried to match the Dominion's conventional capabilities. Instead, they had leaped into theoretical physics and emerged with something entirely new. "Send the signal to New Eden," Captain Okafor ordered. "Tell them to begin the final phase of the evacuation. We'll keep the Dominion busy." The massive Dreadnought began to move, its phase shift drive creating ripples in the quantum fabric of space itself. The Dominion fleet was about to learn that humanity's apparent technological inferiority had been the greatest deception in the history of warfare. As they emerged from the nebula's protective embrace, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Araya, initiate combat protocols. Let's show them why you should never corner a species that turned their greatest scientific theories into weapons of war." The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and the Dominion was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you think you've already beaten. The Dominion fleet hung in space like a constellation of artificial stars, their crystalline hulls refracting the light of New Eden's sun. Admiral Vexthor stood on the command deck of the Eternal Dominance, his 4 arms crossed behind his back as he observed the tactical display. The human colony lay before them, seemingly defenseless except for a handful of orbital platforms. "Curious," he muttered, his secondary eyes narrowing. "Their evacuation appears methodical, not panicked, almost as if." A surge of energy rippled through space, causing every sensor array in the fleet to momentarily flicker. When they recovered, a massive shape had appeared between the Dominion Armada and their target. The HMS Aegis seemed to shimmer like a mirage, its hull transitioning through multiple quantum states at once. "Impossible," Vexthor's chief scientist gasped. "The energy readings, they're operating on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously." On the bridge of the Aegis, Sarah Chen watched the Dominion fleet's reaction through the quantum sensors. "Araya, status of the phase shift field." "Field integrity at 98%. The AI responded. "The fleet's scanning attempts are being scattered across our quantum wake. They're effectively shooting blind." Captain Okafor's voice carried across the bridge, calm and assured. "All hands, battle stations. Initiate Protocol Hydra." The Aegis's hull began to blur, seemingly splitting into multiple overlapping versions of itself. What had appeared to be a single massive ship suddenly became a quantum nightmare, a vessel existing in several parallel states at once. By the eternal stars, Vexthor breathed as he watched the impossible unfold on his displays. "All ships, open fire. Destroy that abomination." The space between the fleets erupted with energy as hundreds of Dominion warships unleashed their main batteries. Beams of coherent plasma and graviton torpedoes streaked toward the Aegis. But trying to hit a ship that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously was like trying to catch smoke with a net. "Phase shift successful," Sarah announced, her fingers dancing across her console. "Initiating countermeasures." The Aegis's own weapons were unlike anything the Dominion had encountered. Quantum-locked beams of energy that existed in the same multiple states as the ship itself lashed out. Where they struck, Dominion vessels found their own quantum fields disrupted. Some ships suddenly aged thousands of years in seconds, their hulls crumbling to dust. Others became temporarily unstable, their crews experiencing minutes as hours or seconds as days. "Admiral," Vexthor's tactical officer shouted in panic, "We've lost contact with the entire 3rd Division. The human weapon. It's not just destroying ships, it's erasing them from causality itself." Sarah watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and horror. The phase shift technology was more effective than even their simulations had predicted. "Araya, calculate firing solutions for the quantum disruptors. Target their command ships only. We want to disable, not destroy." "Commander," Araya's voice held a note of concern. "I'm detecting unusual fluctuations in the quantum field. The overlapping weapons fire is creating unexpected resonance patterns." Captain Okafor moved to Sarah's station, studying the readings. Could this compromise the phase shift field? Negative, Sarah responded, though her brow furrowed in concentration. But these fluctuations, they're not random. The Dominion ship's energy signatures are creating a harmonic pattern with our quantum wake. In the chaos of battle, Vexthor was beginning to understand the true scope of his mistake. The humans hadn't been retreating out of weakness. They had been leading his fleet into a trap. But more than that, they had achieved something his own scientists had declared impossible. All ships, maintain distance, he ordered. They're using some form of quantum manipulation technology. Our conventional weapons are worse than useless. They're only adding energy to their quantum field. But it was too late. The Aegis had already begun its next phase of attack. The quantum disruptors fired, each beam splitting into multiple temporal states. Where they struck, Dominion ships found their advanced systems locked in temporal loops, their weapons and engines cycling between past and future states uselessly. "Sir," Sarah called out, "the quantum field harmonics are reaching critical levels. The entire local space-time fabric is becoming unstable." Captain Okafor's expression hardened. "Araya, initiate Protocol Omega. It's time to show them why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to see patterns where others see chaos." The Aegis began to pulse with energy, its quantum field expanding to encompass nearby space. The Dominion fleet found themselves caught in a web of temporal distortions, their mighty warships reduced to helpless observers as reality itself seemed to fold and unfold around them. The battle for New Eden was about to enter its final phase, and the universe itself would bear witness to humanity's greatest technological achievement, or its most catastrophic mistake. Time itself seemed to fracture around the battling fleets. The quantum wake of the Aegis had grown into a swirling maelstrom of temporal energy, creating areas where minutes stretched into hours and others where hours compressed into seconds. Through it all, Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays with growing concern. "Captain," she called out, her voice tense, "the quantum harmonics are reaching levels we never encountered in simulations. The Dominion fleet's energy signatures are amplifying our field effects exponentially." Araya's holographic avatar flickered into view beside her station. "Commander, I'm detecting cascade failures in the local space-time fabric. The combined quantum displacement of our weapons and their shields is creating a self-sustaining reaction." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Vexthor was witnessing something that shattered his understanding of physics. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was being torn apart not by conventional weapons, but by the very nature of reality becoming unstable around them. "All ships, emergency temporal stabilizers," he ordered. "Divert all power to quantum shielding." But as his fleet struggled to adapt, he noticed something even more alarming. The human vessel wasn't just attacking, it was trying to contain the chaos it had unleashed. Captain Okafor stood at the center of the Aegis's bridge, his expression grim as he studied the sensor readings. "Araya, analysis. What happens if the quantum cascade continues unchecked?" The A's response was immediate and troubling. "At current progression rates, the cascade will create a temporal singularity within the next 17 minutes. The resulting distortion could potentially destabilize spacetime throughout the entire sector." Sarah's hands flew across her controls, attempting to modulate the phase shift field. "We can't shut down the drive. The feedback would tear us apart. But if we maintain this level of quantum displacement, we risk causing permanent damage to the fabric of spacetime itself." Across the battlefield, Dominion ships were experiencing increasingly severe temporal effects. Some vessels reported their crews aging decades in minutes, while others found themselves reliving the same moments over and over. The advanced technology that had made the Dominion seemingly invincible was now contributing to their undoing. "Sir," Araya announced, "I'm detecting an unusual pattern in the quantum fluctuations. The Dominion ship's shield harmonics, they're not random. They're attempting to establish a resonance frequency with our field." Sarah analyzed the data, her eyes widening. They're not trying to counter our technology. They're trying to understand it. Admiral Vexthor is attempting to stabilize the quantum cascade by synchronizing his fleet's shields with our phase shift field. Captain Okafor moved to her station, studying the readings. Can we use this? Find a way to work with their shield harmonics instead of against them. Theoretically, Sarah responded, her mind racing. If we could coordinate our quantum fields, we might be able to create a stable temporal bubble around both fleets, but it would require precise synchronization with their systems. On the eternal dominance, Vexthor had reached a similar conclusion. This was never about destroying us, he realized aloud. Their technology, it's not just a weapon. It's a key to understanding quantum mechanics on a fundamental level, and we've just helped them unlock something far more dangerous than either of us anticipated. The space between the fleets had become a swirling vortex of temporal energy, with ships from both sides caught in its grasp. The very stars seemed to blur and shift as reality struggled to maintain coherence. Commander, Araya's voice carried an urgent tone. Quantum cascade approaching critical threshold. We have less than 5 minutes before the reaction becomes irreversible. Sarah looked up at Captain Okafor, her expression determined. Sir, I have an idea. But it's going to require us to trust the enemy, and them to trust us. We need to synchronize our phase shift drive with their shield matrix. The risk? Okafor asked, though he already knew the answer. If we're off by even a microsecond, the feedback will destroy both fleets instantly. But if we succeed, we might just discover something neither humanity nor the Dominion ever expected to find in this war. The captain nodded, understanding the magnitude of the decision. Araya, open a channel to the Dominion flagship. It's time to see if our enemies can become partners in preventing a disaster that could destroy us all. As the quantum cascade approached its critical point, both fleets faced a choice that would determine not just the outcome of the battle, but potentially the fate of space-time itself in this sector of the galaxy. The dance of titans had become a desperate race against time, with former enemies forced to consider cooperation in the face of mutual annihilation. The quantum cascade had turned space itself into a writhing storm of temporal energy. Between the fleets, reality rippled like water, stars seeming to dance and shift position as space-time struggled to maintain coherence. On the bridge of the Aegis, Sarah Chen worked frantically to establish a stable quantum link with the Dominion flagship. Receiving transmission from the Eternal Dominance, Araya announced. Admiral Vexthor's image appeared on the main display, his 4 eyes reflecting the chaos unfolding around them. Human vessel, he began, his translator struggling with the temporal distortions. Your quantum technology. It's beyond anything we thought your species capable of. But you've created something neither of us can control alone. Captain Okafor stepped forward. Admiral, we need to synchronize our systems. Your shield harmonics combined with our phase shift drive might be able to contain the cascade effect. The risk is considerable, Vexthor responded. A single miscalculation could accelerate the collapse. Why should I trust that this isn't simply another human deception? Sarah spoke up, her voice carrying across the channel. Because we designed the Aegis not just as a weapon, but as a proof of concept. The phase shift drive demonstrates that space-time itself can be manipulated in ways your scientists claimed impossible. If we can't contain this cascade, it will prove them right in the worst possible way. The temporal distortions were growing stronger. Throughout both fleets, crews reported increasingly severe anomalies. On some ships, time was moving so slowly that seconds stretched into hours. On others, years of wear appeared in moments, hull plating aging decades in minutes. Araya, Sarah called out, begin transmission of quantum synchronization protocols to the Dominion flagship. Admiral, you'll need to modulate your fleet's shield frequencies to match our phase shift resonance. Vexthor studied the data streaming across his displays. His scientific background, the reason he had risen to fleet command, allowed him to grasp the principles behind the human technology. It was elegant in its complexity, turning theoretical physics into practical application in ways his people had never considered. Initiating shield modulation, he announced. All ships, synchronize your temporal stabilizers with the incoming frequency pattern. The space between the fleets began to change as hundreds of Dominion ships adjusted their shield harmonics to match the Aegis's quantum field. The chaotic temporal distortion started to take on a more organized pattern, like waves falling into rhythm. Quantum resonance at 60% synchronization, Araya reported. Cascade effect beginning to stabilize in localized areas. But just as hope began to rise, a new problem emerged. The Aegis's hull groaned as unprecedented stresses built up in its quantum arrays. Phase shift drive approaching critical threshold, Sarah announced, her hands flying across the controls. The power requirements for maintaining field stability are exceeding our capacity. Commander, Araya's voice held unusual urgency. The quantum harmonics are creating a feedback loop in the drive system. We cannot maintain this level of output without risking a core breach. Captain Okafor understood immediately what that meant. If the drive fails while we're maintaining the containment field, the resulting quantum backlash would trigger an immediate collapse of local spacetime. Sarah finished. Sir, I have a suggestion, but you're not going to like it. On the Dominion flagship, Vexthor watched in growing concern as the human vessel's energy emissions became increasingly erratic. Their containment systems are failing, his chief scientist reported. The strain of maintaining the quantum field is too great for a single ship, even one as advanced as theirs. Sarah's voice came across the channel again. Admiral, we're going to attempt something unprecedented. We need you to extend your fleet's shield network to encompass the Aegis. We're going to deliberately overload our phase shift drive, but in a controlled manner. Explain, Vexthor demanded, though he was already beginning to understand the human's plan. The drive can't maintain stable containment, but we can use its final pulse to create a quantum template, a pattern your shields can lock onto and maintain. It will sacrifice the Aegis, but it might save everything else. The implications weren't lost on either commander. The humans were offering to sacrifice their most advanced warship, their greatest technological achievement, to prevent a disaster that threatened both sides equally. Sir, Sarah turned to Captain Okafor. We need to begin power transfer to the quantum core. Once we start, we'll have less than 2 minutes before the drive goes critical. Okafor looked around his bridge, at the crew that had trained for years for this mission. They had come to defeat an enemy, but now faced the prospect of sacrificing everything to save them instead. Do it, he ordered. Araya, begin evacuation protocols. Transfer command functions to the auxiliary bridge. As klaxons sounded throughout the massive ship, Sarah initiated the power transfer sequence. The Aegis's quantum core began to pulse with increasing intensity, its energy bleeding into the surrounding space in carefully controlled bursts. Around them, the Dominion fleet's shields shifted and adapted, creating a vast network of interlocking fields ready to capture and contain the coming explosion. They had come here as enemies, brought advanced technology to destroy each other, and instead found themselves forced to cooperate in ways neither side had imagined possible. As the quantum core approached critical levels, both fleets held position, united in their effort to prevent a catastrophe that transcended their conflict. The final moments aboard the Aegis were a blur of controlled chaos. As emergency pods launched from the massive vessel, carrying most of the crew to safety, Sarah Chen remained at her station, working with the skeleton crew to manage the quantum core's controlled overload. The ship's interior was bathed in the ethereal blue light of raw quantum energy bleeding through the containment fields. 90 seconds to critical threshold, Araya announced, her voice calm despite the circumstances. Dominion shield network at full synchronization, ready to receive quantum template. Captain Okafor stood at his command station, watching as his ship prepared to make its final sacrifice. Status of the evacuation. 87% of crew successfully evacuated, Araya reported. Remaining personnel are essential for final phase operations. Through the quantum distortions, Admiral Vexthor's voice crackled across the command channel. "Human vessel, our shield network is ready. We're detecting unusual patterns in your quantum signature. What exactly will your drive's overload do to local spacetime?" Sarah managed a grim smile as she made final adjustments to the power distribution. "It's going to rewrite the rules, Admiral. The phase shift drive doesn't just manipulate spacetime. It creates new quantum templates for reality itself. When it overloads, it will release a blueprint that your shields can capture and maintain." 60 seconds to threshold. AI updated. "Commander, the quantum harmonics are stabilizing. The Dominion fleet's shield network is successfully adapting to our field patterns." On the Eternal Dominance, Vexthor watched in fascination as his sensors recorded data that would revolutionize his people's understanding of physics. The human ship wasn't just using advanced technology. It was demonstrating principles that his civilization had never even theorized. "All ships," he commanded, "maintain shield synchronization. Prepare to receive quantum template." He paused, then added, "Whatever our differences, your species has earned the respect of the Dominion today." The Aegis's hull was now glowing with barely contained energy, the quantum core pushing out more power than it was ever designed to handle. Sarah's hands flew across her controls, guiding the overload along carefully calculated paths. 30 seconds. Araya announced. "Captain, we need to begin final sequence now." Okafor nodded, looking at his remaining bridge crew. "It has been an honor. Begin sequence." Sarah initiated the final program, feeling the ship shudder around her as the quantum core began its controlled collapse. "Admiral," she called across the channel, "remember, this technology wasn't created just for war. The phase shift drive proves that reality itself is more flexible than we imagined. What we do with that knowledge is up to us." 15 seconds to threshold, Araya reported. "Quantum template stabilizing. Dominion shield network ready to receive." In the space between the fleets, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The chaotic temporal distortions began to smooth out, falling into patterns that rippled through space like waves on a cosmic ocean. 10 seconds. All remaining personnel should be in emergency pods now. Sarah took one last look at her station, then joined the captain and final bridge crew in their reinforced escape pod. Through its viewport, they watched as their greatest technological achievement prepared to sacrifice itself to save two civilizations. 5 seconds. Quantum template locked. Shield network synchronized. The Aegis's quantum core reached critical mass, its energy spreading out in a carefully controlled wave that the Dominion's shield network caught and shaped. For a moment, space itself seemed to crystallize, temporal distortions freezing in place before slowly beginning to unwind. From their escape pods, the Aegis's crew watched as their ship was enveloped in quantum fire. But instead of destruction, they'd witnessed transformation. The phase shift drive's final gift was a demonstration of how space, time, and reality itself could be reshaped by those with the knowledge and wisdom to do so. Hours later, as rescue operations concluded and scientists from both sides began analyzing the vast amounts of data collected, Sarah stood with Captain Okafor aboard the Eternal Dominance. Admiral Vexthor had invited them to discuss not just the implications of what had happened, but the future it might lead to. "Your ship's sacrifice," Vexthor began, "has given both our people something far more valuable than victory. It has shown us that our understanding of the universe was far too limited. The phase shift drive was never meant to be just a weapon," Sarah explained. "It was proof that cooperation between our species could lead to discoveries neither of us could achieve alone." "And now?" Okafor asked, looking out at the space where temporal distortions were still slowly settling into new patterns. "Now," Vexthor responded, "we have a choice. We can continue our war, or we can explore these new frontiers together. Your species has proven itself not just capable of matching our technology, but of seeing possibilities we never imagined." As the stars shone steadily once more in settled spacetime, representatives of two species that had been locked in war began discussing a future of joint scientific exploration. The Aegis' sacrifice had shown them both that the greatest victories don't come from destroying your enemies, but from transforming them into partners in discovery. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon had not been the phase shift drive itself, but their ability to see beyond the immediate conflict to the greater possibilities it represented. And in that revelation lay the seeds of a peace that would reshape not just two civilizations, but their understanding of reality itself.